4 weeks for the fuel to arrive and 4 weeks for the fuel to be treated. And so we are in a very serious situation. At the transition, we brought this up. The outgoing administration assured us that they had procured some parcels of fuel. Today, right after President Mahama assumed office, and I served on the transition, my checks indicate that we do not have fuel that can cater for even 2 days. So clearly we have a major problem. And this is an incoming administration. Even if you order the fuel, like I'm telling you, it will take about 8 weeks. So we are in for real trouble.
Well, that's what he said. He joins us now over the phone. Mr. Jinapor, what a pleasure. Good morning to you.
Good morning, my brother.
And congratulations, of course, on your victory in Yape Kusogu.
Thank you.
All right. Now, yesterday we heard you, but maybe some clarity is required. Is it 5 hours or is it 2 days? What's the situation with our fuel stock?
Okay, thank you. Like you said, it was a comment in person. It wasn't like a press conference or a press briefing. I think your reporter, your reporter asked me what was the major challenge that we anticipate in the energy sector. And like you said, I served on the subcommittee of the Joint Energy and Natural Resources Committee. In fact, the committee was gracious to make me the co-chair, and I virtually chaired the deliberations. And so what I got as at yesterday, liquid fuel stock as at 05/01/2025, current stock available. AXA, current stock available 225 cubic meters, expected to last for 5 hours, with AXA running at 120 megawatts. I don't know if you get that. KTPP, current stock available 1,275.46 cubic meters, expected to last for 1.5 days, with 1 unit running continuously, or 0.75 day, that's less than 1 day, for 2 units running continuously. So for AXA, the fuel available can last for 5 hours. For KTPP, the fuel available can last for less than 2 days. For Send Power, current stock available 293,000. Projected stock to last for 20.9 days, with 2 units running continuous. That's the briefing I got from Gridco. It's official. I will share the document with you. And so when your reporter asked what was the challenge, I said the main challenge would be to work around and deal with the fuel situation. I.e., how do we move from this 5 hours to 30 days immediately? How do we move from less than 2 days KTPP to 30 days immediately? And then more importantly, Send Power, where I elaborated. Send Power is indicated that they usually require 4 weeks to treat the fuel. With distillate fuel and heavy fuel oil, which can be used by AXA and KTPP, there's no issue. I also checked Asogle has no fuel. Asogle has no fuel, so there's no fuel stock at Asogle. But the problem is that even when you bring the fuel now, you will need to treat it. That is light crude oil. And so these are the facts. I mean, if anybody has counter facts, I've read Herbert Crapper's statement. He didn't give any figures. The question you ask is that, what are the figures? This came up at the transition team. It's not like nobody anticipated it. At the transition team, we invited WAPCO, because WAPCO was supposed to carry out the maintenance exercise in October 2024. Government prevailed on WAPCO to postpone it to January 20th in order to build enough fuel stock. At the meeting, Collins, who is the deputy minister to Herbert Crapper, was at the meeting, and it came to light that the fuel stock was not enough to cater for the power situation when WAPCO eventually turns the valve off. Because when they turn the valves off, the Tema enclave will not have gas. We can't also do a reverse flow of gas from Takoradi to Tema. So we need adequate stock of fuel, which is light crude oil, heavy fuel oil, and distillate fuel oil to carry us through that 1 month period. In fact, 2 weeks or 3 weeks before handing over, the briefing we got at the joint committee was that they had not secured those fuel, neither had they placed order for the fuel. And so we raised that at the joint committee. And then the Minister of Energy assured that they've already sent in a requisition to the Minister of Finance. Fortunately, I co-chaired the meeting with the Minister of Finance, Honorable Mohamed Amin Antel, and he assured that he was going to work to ensure that they place that parcel of light crude oil immediately. He even went further to say that he was transferring $70 million to GMPC. This is officially captured in the handing over, in the records of the joint transition team, which I can make available to you. And so a day or some few hours to assume in office, and with your reporter approaching me and asking, and with the facts available, I thought that it was prudent to put the facts out. And what I put out are the facts. The 70 million has not been transferred to GMPC. You can check with GMPC. The parcel of light crude oil has not been ordered as we speak this morning. In fact, this administration is a new administration. So the previous administration, despite the assurance, did not order that fuel. Today, 10 a.m., His Excellency the President is instructed that the Chief of Staff chairs a meeting of all the stakeholders, GRICO, WAPCO, VRA, GMPC, BOST. You mentioned them. All of them are supposed to appear before that meeting. Those of us who served on the committee would also join that meeting. The essence of the meeting is to find solutions to these challenges that I've enumerated. And so yesterday night, we did a lot of technical work. We've put some options on the table that will be discussed at the meeting. His Excellency will be briefed, and I'm sure he will give instructions to the Chief of Staff.
And Herbert Crapper. So it's fair that I read exactly what he said in response to your earlier statement and interview. This is what he said. Time of leaving office, President Akufo-Addo's government left in stock light crude oil, which Send Power currently generates power with, whilst AXA continues to take delivery of heavy fuel oil, which it generates power with. This fact is easily verifiable with a phone call to both power plants. The responsibility of the new administration is to not only procure more liquid fuel to keep the lights on whenever liquid fuel becomes required to complement gas supply, but also plan competently to avert power supply disruptions. We did it, and they can do it too, if they can. And he has some concluding remarks on that. And he says the NDC government should get to work as we did. The reason we kept the lights on for 8 years, regardless of the difficult times, and stop the needless finger pointing. That is not the way we kept the lights on. This is exactly what the immediate past minister in charge of the sector, a man who sits in the same committee with you on transition, which is something he also referenced in this statement. Yes, he didn't give you the volume. He didn't give figures. Yes, he didn't give
I've
figures.
Given you the figures that AXA has 225 cubic meters today. And he says AXA is drawing fuel. From where? You haven't placed order for the fuel. How does AXA draw the fuel? You can't draw fuel when you haven't placed order for the fuel. Is it not tried knowledge? Simple basic logic. A minister should know this. How they place order for fuel? If you haven't placed order for fuel, he cannot say that AXA is drawing fuel. That is simple.
Separate them for us.
I'm very worried by some of these comments that come from ministers. And I say that KTPP has less than 2 days of fuel. Did you tell me KTPP is drawing fuel?
It's not on the list.
It's not there. I say that Asogli has no fuel. Is it true or not? Is Asogli drawing fuel? And I'm saying that Send Power fuel can last only 20 days. They require about 4 weeks to treat the fuel, even when you order the fuel. Meanwhile, from 20th of this month, the pipeline is going to be shut down for 1 month. But from today, the fuel available can take you only 20 days. Is this a fact or not? Did he, as minister, Herbert Crapper, did he assure the committee that they've placed requisition to the Ministry of Finance of fuel and that the fuel will be procured before the handover? Have they done that? They haven't. My brother, you know something? Facts are facts. Facts are not opinion. You can give us opinion that we should order crude, we should resolve it, I agree. And let's first of all establish the facts. When we get the facts, then we find solution to the challenges. But you just throw something out, and I'm telling you, our interest as a party, and I'm sure President Mahama's interest as a government, is to address the challenges. Your reporter asked me, I provided the evidence. I'm telling you today, Chief of Staff is chairing a critical meeting. We intend to do some emergency procurement, and I'm sure the Chief of Staff will lead that process because he has the mandate. So we would see how we help the Chief of Staff and President Mahama deal with these challenges. Where there are real challenges, I'm sure government will be honest enough to inform the people of Ghana.
Are we currently shedding load?
Yes, yesterday there was load shed. And we would make available the system report to you today. Over the past 6 months or so, the power situation has not been stable. There have been serious interruptions and load shedding. Quote me, load shedding. So when Herbert Crapper says he's kept the lights on, that's even false. And Gridco would make that available to you today. It's a chart, it's printed. So you can't doctor it. That will be made available. But the most important thing is the way forward. For me, you state the facts, this is what you inherited, this is the challenge, this is the situation. But 99% of the thinking and the work goes to what do you do as a government. And that is what the Chief of Staff, Honorable Julius Debra, is focused on with His Excellency President Mahama.
Now, you mentioned this to us yesterday, when, according to you, in at least at one place, we were 5 hours away from running out of fuel. Does this mean that even with the best efforts of the Mahama government, we are going to go through a period of no fuel, and therefore we are going to have doomsor?
I do not want to preempt today's meeting, but let me assure you that everything is being done. Yesterday night we spent about 4 hours to 5 hours doing a lot of scenario and sensitivity analysis, options in terms of what to do. In fact, let me just tell you this one. One of the options is that instead of waiting for light crude oil for Asogli, we'd rather buy diesel and fire that plant. Very expensive, but it's an option we are taking to the Chief of Staff. I don't have the mandate to make that decision. We're just a technical team. We do the work and we take it to the office of the president. And so all the options are on the table. I'm sure that they will give some directions. So let's remain calm. Let Ghanaians remain calm. That's what I can say. No need to panic. It's serious. The situation is very serious. The stocks are very low. In fact, there is going to be an engagement with WAPCO as well. We don't know what will happen with the engagement with WAPCO. But what we've put out, and brother, let me be sincere with you, is nothing but a fact. And these are facts. Facts are sacrosanct.
Well, I mean, you have given us information which is, as you say, not good. It's difficult to ask people not to panic when the future is so uncertain. So we want to know, is doomsor a possibility? Is it a possibility?
No, it will be too early to make that conclusion that there's a possibility. Let's finish today's meeting. We're just about 1 hour away from that meeting. Okay. We've put together a lot of scenarios and determined to hold the situation to the best of our ability. Okay. So once again, let me assure you that remain calm. With President Mahama in charge, we'll do everything. The ideal situation, honestly, is that when it became apparent that the pipeline will be shut down from 20th, especially when the outgone administration prevailed on WAPCO not to do the maintenance in October, but to do it in January. It behoves on them to have taken all the necessary steps to have secured.
That will lead me to my next question, Honorable Jinapor, because
Yes.
you've talked about the maintenance, which was supposed to have been done in October, being postponed to 20th January, and you've also talked about a meeting with WAPCO. Is there a possibility that the maintenance be further postponed, waiting, pending the delivery of crude oil or light crude oil, HFO, so that at least we have some time? Is that something on the table that you're looking at?
I pray we get that. I pray that we get that. WAPCO was at the first meeting that indicated that they had mobilized already and that the vessel had already arrived. And that government knew since October that the 20th January they're going to undertake this exercise. And that is government that prevailed on them to move to 20th January. So it was a difficult one. But then I was the chair of the subcommittee. The matter has now been escalated or elevated to the level of the presidency. And the presidency is going to invite WAPCO. So let's keep our fingers crossed and see what happens after that meeting.
So it's a possibility that we postpone the maintenance.
It's my ideal situation, but I'm just an individual. So let's see how it goes.
Now, Mr. Jinapor, you were co-chair of the Energy Subcommittee since the 9th of December. And you knew even then that it would take 4 weeks for fuel to arrive. So at that point, why did you not insist on the order being placed so that we don't get to this point where we're
just some quick clarification. The main transition committee was inaugurated on the 9th. They had series of meetings. I'm not a member. If you read the statement, I'm not a member. Then they decided to form subcommittees. So they form a energy and natural resources subcommittee. And they then decided that we're not members of, constitutionally or legally. So they will co-opt us and constitute what they call a technical committee. In fact, by the time they had done all this, we were around 20. And then they gave us the handing over notes. And then I also constituted a technical committee to review the handing over notes. It was in the process of reviewing the handing over notes that we detected the fuel stock and the challenge ahead of us. So we quickly asked for an emergency meeting. And that emergency meeting was called about a week or 2 weeks before handing over. And it became apparent that despite the Akufo-Addo government's assurance to WAPCO that they were going to procure adequate fuel, they did not have adequate fuel. And then the minister assured us that right after the meeting, we were going to take steps to procure the fuel. And so I thought that with that level of understanding and trust amongst us at the joint committee, there was no need to come crying wolf. Because in the energy sector too, you ought to be cautious with how you manage information. But when we're about taking over, and I asked for the briefing, and it turned out that, look, despite all the assurances, they had failed to procure that parcel of fuel. But I thank your reporter. Initially, I was going to brief some people, but I thank your reporter for asking. I do not regret putting the facts out before President Mahama assumes office. And those are the facts.
Might it not have been better to put them out when you found out, so that we could then be in a position to put pressure on the government of the day to do something about it quicker? Oh, it would seem we've lost our connection to John Jinapor. Let's see if we can try to reconnect. In the meantime, some messages. We'll be right back.
Wednesday, welcome.
I think we've been able to reconnect to John Jinapor, Honourable Member of Parliament for Yape Kusogu. Mr. Jinapor, thank you for your patience. So I was just asking, would it not have been better, for you to inform us of this looming crisis at the time you found out, rather than when we were hours away from running out?
Yes, like I said, when we had the last meeting, the Minister of Energy had assured that he had sent a requisition to the Minister of Finance the Minister of Finance, who was a co-chair to me, Honorable Mohamed Amin Anta, then assured that he was going to fast-track this process and get the parcel of oil duly ordered. So why would I then go to the media and cry wolf or tell the media that there was crisis looming? I thought that I could trust their assurance. But a day or some hours to handing over, I thought that, look, having failed to honor their promise. And I thank your reporter, like I said. In fact, I think that he did a good job. He came and asked me what was the challenge, and I don't regret putting that out. I think that Ghanaians ought to know the challenge. But like I said, we're going to work around the clock with the Chief of Staff to handle the situation.
Now,
and that is where we are.
Okay. Now, talking about you not regretting.
But quickly.
Yes, quickly, because I know President Mahama.
We tried some options, but anytime we try, it came to one point that he didn't have a mandate.
Okay.
You talk to some suppliers, and at the end of the day, the thing is that, look, you are not the government.
Okay.
You don't have authority to place any order. So we couldn't have ordered for fuel in our capacity then as an incoming administration at that time.
So now that you have the mandate, I know you're going into a meeting at 10 a.m. You've talked about having to treat the fuel for 4 weeks. Let's look at the other situation. Now that you have the mandate under emergency circumstances, what is the most feasible thing that you can do in getting crude oil to these plants? How long will that take you?
It takes about 3 weeks to 4 weeks for a vessel to load fully and come. Another option would be to use a smaller vessel. Instead of loading 600,000 barrels, you could do 100,000 barrels for that to come ahead of the bigger vessel. That's one. We're going to look at that option. Yesterday, President Mama got us to talk to some people in Nigeria, because Stand Power particularly require a certain specification of light crude oil, which normally must come from some particular field in Nigeria. Two is the testing. Stand Power has indicated that they have to use 4 weeks to test it, because they will normally send the products outside of Ghana. We want to ask them whether once the vessel is loaded, can we take the sample ahead of the vessel coming to Ghana and then airlift it to Ghana so they can start the testing, and then also airlift it to, I think, Belgium or Netherlands or something for the final testing before the vessel arrives, which means that we are trying to crash down the 4 weeks to about 2 weeks.
Okay.
And so these are options. I mean, like I said, we've done so many options, but we need to sit around the table under the leadership of the Chief of Staff, and that's what we're going to do.
And if these options don't yield the desired result, then it means
anything can happen. Because let me be frank, even Akosomo can crash today, but you go to these things with optimism. Like I told you, there's been load shedding for the past 6 months, and we'll make that available. But you go to these meetings with a sense of optimism. We don't want to go with pessimism. So let's get there. And one other one is to run Asogli on diesel instead of the normal light crude oil. It's quite expensive, and diesel you consume faster than light crude oil. But my information is that Asogli is configured as trial fuel, so it can consume light crude oil, it can consume diesel, it can consume gas. We want to ask them whether they can quickly do some retrofitting or something to consume diesel fuel. But the truth is that we have some challenge to deal with, and we are determined to tackle that challenge head on.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the elaboration. We appreciate your time with us.
Thank you.
John Jinapor is Honourable Member of Parliament for Yape Kusogu, and he was the co-chair of the Subcommittee on Energy as part of the transition team.